I don't think I ever really believed everything.
And I realized that quite a few of the things didn't hold water.
The actual religions were man-made from wherever.
God? Who's God? What's God?
I think skepticism really is the first step.
Scientific zest and zeal for the real world.
That was it. I was an atheist from then on.
The only way to get to the truth, the ultimate truth, is to follow the reality and not.
Hi, I'm Red.
Hi, I'm Susan, and this is our friend Ron here to tell you about his journey onto the road to atheism. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome, Ron.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, good to meet
So,
you too.
in the beginning, you were born into what kind of family?
Okay, I was born into a Catholic family. My parents had come over from Germany in 1930, and they met here, and they were both Catholic. And I was born in 1940, and I was raised as a Catholic. And I actually did not attend Catholic school till the fourth grade because we were a bit on the move. My father worked for American Airlines, and speaking German at the end of World War II, he took an opportunity to transfer over there to work with the American occupation, with American Overseas Airlines, which gave him the opportunity to not only do the work there with the airline, but he also worked with the Air Transport Command and had a lot of responsibility. We shopped in the commissary, even though we were not military. We lived in a community that was set aside by the Army for independence.
But it was an English-speaking one.
Oh, yeah, it was all English, yeah, of course. It was the American section.
So it was a cosmopolitan type of community. It wasn't just all strictly Catholic or anything like that.
Oh, no, it was. It was
Right.
definitely all. In fact, we had a chapel that was also Protestant and it was Catholic.
Okay.
So I went to not military school, I'm sorry. I went to the Army school, for dependents at that time. So I hadn't been introduced to Catholic education yet.
Were your parents very religious or semi or what?
They were not the holy roller type. They went to church every Sunday. That was what they did. I don't think I had any real indoctrination in the beginning.
But you celebrated Christmas.
Oh,
right?
sure.
Yes.
Well, even the Jews do now.
Your experience being around in a base, a military base, did that influence you in any particular way?
No, there was no kind of regimentation or anything like that in it. It really would have been no different if I had been, stateside. In that.
But your school friends, they were of different backgrounds. Things.
Yeah, well, they were American. All of them were American.
Yeah, but I mean, American Protestants and American Jews and
that's
American.
Right, yeah, that's correct.
Whatever.
We're all different religions.
Okay. And as you grew up and started to think independently and otherwise searching for ideas, when did it come across to you when you were young that it might not be so? At what age?
Well,
was it teenager? Was it?
I was as a teenager, as a late teenager.
You came back to America. You said you came back to America and entered
we came
Catholic
back in
school.
1950. And my parents enrolled me in a Catholic school in Douglaston, where we lived, St. Anastasius.
So you really were taught.
Yeah, that was a religious school, and the nuns were. I had no complaints about them, but it was a religious school. I accepted it, so I can't say I was mistreated or anything. I have no angst or any strong
no paddle
feelings.
whipping, no.
The girls more than the boys. In retrospect, it wasn't right. Looking back, they got slapped more.
I see.
Than the boys did.
Okay.
Especially if they had big concerns.
And what about
at that age?
Okay,
which is a shame. I know one.
Yeah.
What about indoctrination in any particular dogma, church dogma, or anything like that? Was that done?
Well, I went to a Catholic high
Stations
school.
of the Cross, in other words.
Yes, I remember the Stations of the Cross, and I remember trying to live them and feel them and thinking how awful that Christ went through this. But after it was over, I forgot about it. That's
Communion.
I used to set up an altar for Lent for the Virgin Mary in our house.
So you graduated even from the Catholic high school?
I graduated from a Catholic high school, and I remember some of the things the brothers said. One in particular has come back to me. This was a neighbor. I have no complaints about the brothers either. But he said once, he was talking in front of the class, and I don't know if this was theology class because we had other subjects, and he was saying that when you go if you get up to heaven, and if your parents are there, anybody there, you will not care a whit about any of your loved ones who are down in hell. You will have no sympathy for them whatsoever. And that's the way it is, because they have sinned and they deserve what they're getting, and you will know that, and you will feel. I remember at the time listening to it. I didn't.
So he was setting up a base of prejudice for those who were not necessarily following through the strict rules of Catholicism.
Well,
to go to heaven.
Yeah, he was kind of saying
Basically,
we've
that's
got
what
better
it
do the
was.
right path.
Do the right path.
You know,
and that was the first time a threat was given. It's the first time fear was put into you. You didn't want to be one of those
I didn't
left
feel
back.
fear. That's the whole thing. I was 14,
Yeah.
and I don't remember even feeling much empathy in those days.
And your fellow students and classmates today, did you notice any difference, or it didn't affect them as well?
That statement, I don't think anybody seemed to be. It just seemed to be matter of fact.
But you did remember that.
I do remember.
that.
Oh, yes, I do.
And that got you.
I think that's just horrible now.
Yeah, and that got you
Thinking?
thinking
No,
about
not
it.
then.
No, not then.
No,
So
no.
when
I was a devout Catholic until.
Okay. When was that pivotal age?
Okay,
when, you
when
started
I was
to think?
about 17, a friend of my brother, who was about 19 or 20, my brother's 3.5 years older than I, he was killed in a car accident. And I remember thinking, where is he? Where is he? Can he be in heaven? How do I know he's up there? And it bothered me a lot. And I was in 8th grade, and I think I may have mentioned it to somebody, because I was having doubts about the existence of God. And they said, oh, you're going to take apologetics when you get into high school, blah, blah, blah. And that'll settle all your doubts. And I remember getting apologetics, and it was, it didn't do it. But I didn't.
Could you explain to the audience what apologetics would?
Oh, apologetics means justifying the
right.
existence of God or of a particular doctrine, defending the faith. That's really apologetics. Coming up with arguments to, I guess, apologize, for what they're doing. Although I don't think it means that.
Defending,
Because
it
means
means
the same root.
basically defending
Defending the faith. Right. Coming up with arguments.
A reason and arguments,
Yeah,
right.
philosophical or theological.
And so when
arguments.
you were still thinking of him, a person who was in an accident, and you attended these classes, you were saying something happened to him.
No, but there was a doubt there.
Okay.
And when I started college, Manhattan College, which was a Catholic college, I still went to church. But I happened to make a friend, because I was in the physics program, and it was very good.
Science.
Science, right. I always like science.
Science.
I have a
Logic.
feeling there's
Science.
something there.
Logic,
Right.
yes.
I look for causes. So I remember he was an atheist. And he made that clear. And I said, oh, how nice. I didn't really think that much. But we would have to go to these Catholic, like every once a week or so, we'd have to go to an assembly in the church and have to go through a mass or something like that. And he would say, I can't stand this fucking shit. And he would just, and I would like, wow. I was horrified. But at the same time, I felt a sense of kind of approval of what he's thinking. There was a mixed feeling.
Mixed feeling.
Horror, but...
Because he was a nice guy,
Okay,
right?
oh,
sure. Yeah.
But mixed feeling because you saw a contradiction between church dogma and what he was saying, and what he was saying made a little more sense to you?
No, I wasn't thinking along those lines.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even until the 90s when I got on the internet and I started to see all the logic, the skepticism. Then it came together. In those days, I had no place to go. I just
Meanwhile,
thought,
you had mixed feelings, though, you said with him.
Well, the seed
not so
was
much.
planted.
Not so much. I think the seed was planted, and for 4 years I knew him. I knew he was an atheist. And we talked about it. And I still went to church. In 1963, I was commissioned in the Air Force, and I still went to church in Albuquerque, where we were. And then 7 months later, I was discharged in a medical discharge. I don't want to go into that. And I was still toying with the existence of God. And I remember it well because I tell my wife this story, that I was working in Newark, and I would commute back to New York. And I used to like to catch the Pennsylvania Railroad instead of the path because it didn't make any stops. It was straight into Penn Station. If you happen to catch that, it's the same price or a dime more. I don't know. And I was sitting on the train wondering about, is there a God? Is there not a God? Yes. And we were coming into the tunnel, which is, I guess, in a way you can say that's kind of meaningful, but no, I don't think so. It's
serendipitous.
Yeah, coming into a tunnel of darkness, right? But I remember the walls were going by as we descended, and I thought, no, there's no God. I just concluded like that. And from that day, I stopped going to church.
Amazing. Something like that happens.
Were you married at the time?
No,
or?
I was not.
No.
I was not. No.
So
that was
just
that.
that.
I stopped going to church. My parents found out because I would take the car to go to church, and I'd park and read the
And
newspaper.
you have one brother, or is that?
I have a brother who's older than me,
Yes.
who's a Marist brother. He's in the Catholic religious order.
Right.
And he knows I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
Once we had a
discuss it?
conversation about it, but there's no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this happened in the tunnel, and it hit you like that. As far as your change of thought and mind and whatnot, came as sort of like a revelation.
Realization.
Realization.
There's
Okay.
no. I just didn't
I
think
don't-
there was, and
All
in
right.
fact, I even thought if there is a God, then the Catholic Church is the true religion. But there's no God, therefore the Catholic Church is nothing. That was my reasoning.
That was your reasoning. Very, very good.
That's why I stopped going to the Catholic
It
Church.
had nothing to do with
Of
science.
course, it's very different now.
Sure. It had nothing to do with science. It had nothing
No,
to do with
no.
physics or anything.
I don't know if that my struggling to think about these. I don't even remember what my thoughts were at the time. I just couldn't see any reason to believe in a God.
Interesting.
So that negated all the religious stuff once I
Fantastic.
did that.
And
So-
the talks you had with your brother.
Only once we had it.
Okay. Could you tell me a little about that?
Well, that was before I had been watching the atheist community of Austin
Okay.
with Matt Dillahunty. He's very good. I think that was the first one I listened to. And
At what age was this?
I think this was about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And we were in the house. My sister was there. She's also an atheist.
So how many siblings do you have?
I have a younger sister. She was born in 46.
So the three of you?
Yeah, there's three of us. Right.
Okay.
And so my brother. And somehow we got onto the topic of, is there a God? And my brother was there. And we went back and forth.
He's with
that was it.
religious
That was
order.
it. Nothing deep. You
Okay.
know, and no hostility.
No hostility,
anger. You
no
know,
hard
you stick
feelings.
to
She
it.
was
I'm
an
not gonna-
atheist at the time too.
Yeah, she was atheist at the time. She didn't see it.
How much younger?
She's about 6 years younger than I am.
So
she was
she-
born in 46. I was born in 40. My brother was born in 37. So
At the time that you came to this realization, were your parents still alive? Or?
yeah, oh yeah.
Did you ever talk to them about that?
Well, when they found out, I said to my mother, "I'm an atheist." One day, because she was questioning, nobody sees me in church, something like that. You know, it came up, and I said, "I'm an atheist." I'm not going. I don't think she knew what it meant.
Oh, I
She was disappointed. I think she was more worried the neighbors would find out, you know, than anything
Well, at
else.
least she loved you, and you
Oh,
stayed
sure.
in the family.
I was not rejected.
You hear
at
horror
all.
stories.
No, I was not rejected
Yeah.
at all.
Because you do
I
hear
was
horror
lucky
stories.
that would have been very bad if I had.
Uh-huh.
You know, so that was okay.
And
So,
your wife, you met her in
I met her in '96. That was my first marriage. We went to '97 rather.
and she was an atheist.
She was
too, or-
Lutheran,
was
but
Lutheran.
she really is not a believer, although she claims she's not. She doesn't like it when I get too aggressive talking about things I hear about or evils in the Catholic
Be a
Church. And plenty of
firebrand.
them.
Be a
Oh,
firebrand.
yes.
You know, so she's not too comfortable with that. Although when the clergy abuse thing came out, she was very, very angry about
Oh,
that.
you bet.
I
That
don't
changed
blame
a lot of people in Ireland too. You know, definitely it changed politically.
Oh,
and
boy.
religiously,
And it's still going on,
and it's still
unfortunately.
going on. Yes, well, that's going on, but that's it's a big difference compared to what it was before.
Let's not forget
Well, then
the
it was
Indian
quiet.
woman who was killed in the hospital because they wouldn't let her have
Yeah.
an abortion.
Yes,
When the fetus
I
was
think that
obviously
affected-
dead, they said, no, we have to make sure it's dead. So that happened like a year or two ago.
that's right.
And
And, that affected
unfortunately, that might happen
So,
here if
yes.
the fundamentalists get their way.
And the Catholic hospitals
And the
out
Catholic,
there?
oh yes,
I'm
oh
afraid, oh boy, yeah.
no,
really.
separation of church and state. There should also be separation of church and hospitals, or you know,
Absolutely, I thought of that. That's if they can't fully serve,
yeah,
then they shouldn't be in that business.
shouldn't
Now-
control them.
Although some of the hospitals are very good.
hospitals.
St.
Yeah.
Vincent's was a very good hospital, but I think that's come back to the fore now than it was.
Yes, you're when you joined the New York City Atheists. So, how did you find out about us, and how did you participate?
Oh, at the time we were living, my wife and I were living in Douglaston. I think that's when I first started to go to the meeting, because in 2008 we moved out to East Quogue and sold a house
Right.
in Queens. Excuse me. And I think I just looked it up and found out about it. I was looking for an atheist group, and I think this was one of the first that I.
Isn't Google wonderful?
Oh wow! Oh,
Have you seen YouTube and the discussions on the internet as far as debates are concerned?
Yes, I have seen. I've seen a few.
And has
They're
that
very good.
reinforced your feelings about?
Oh yeah. Oh sure. I mean,
Science
I have a strong sense of even why. I read Skeptical Inquirer. Like his name.
Skeptical Inquirer, right?
The CFC, the Committee for CSI, Committee for Scientific Inquiry. And I think that's it. No, that's Crime Scene Investigator. Whatever. It's this. it's a skeptical organization. They had an article last year on why these beliefs are so perniciously sticking to everybody.
Well, unfortunately, they get to brainwash their little children, and not everyone is like you and I and Rad who can think critically. They also don't want critical thinking taught in schools.
No, they don't.
Because heaven help you,
When the printing press was invented, the Catholic Church went ballistic.
That's right.
They didn't
that's
like it.
true.
Yeah, for 500 years, they've been going downhill.
Yeah, that's right, especially since then.
What do you like about the organization New York City Atheists? Any particular thing that you like?
Oh, I like the meetings. Even though I haven't been for a long time, I really miss them. I enjoyed them very much.
At the meetings to discuss.
I haven't watched the TV show yet. I've seen a few, but I do want to do that, especially this one.
Yes.
I see that one.
Did you?
And I like Ken. He writes very well in the
I think
newsletter.
so. I think
like
so too. He may have some questions later on to ask you, but I think so too.
That's okay.
That's interesting. Did you find that when you have joined New York City Atheists, you haven't done any tabling, have you?
I did with you
twice.
You
did. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Okay, you enjoyed it.
That was in 2008. I think I made it. Oh, very much.
Okay.
Very much.
What did you like about it?
I liked just being out there with the sign. I felt good. Atheists, here we are.
And talking
to people. We didn't even get
and
many people coming, though. There was a little discussion.
We've been getting a lot of people as of late, but for those out there who are interested, we do have tabling during the warm months, anywhere from May until October, and give or take a couple of weeks either way. And that's on Saturdays, and that's located at the
Columbus Circle.
Columbus Circle, Town Water Building, and that's between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m.
35th floor, right?
It's right on the street level, has a tent there, and we encourage people to come down, and you folks who are listening to this, to definitely come down there and participate. And if you're not sure about something, it's a good place in which to learn, because you're going to hear a number of people talk. We definitely talk to the choir, so to speak, down there. And matter of fact, you will even see sometimes other religious groups, I should say not other, but religious groups down there. And that's quite interesting. The diversification is what our Constitution is all about. So we welcome them, and that's fine. But we have our place too.
Yes.
And we think we would give through reason rather than through fear or the democratic, the sort of dogma.
Brainwashing.
And a big push there is basically not to make people atheists, but to maintain the separation of church and state.
That is our main reason, yes.
Because in many parts of the country, that wall is crumbling, unfortunately, and we need to strengthen it desperately.
That wall that Susan's speaking about, is just to give you an example, there are many other examples, but just one in particular. Science teachers are being threatened by local rural communities that saying that their board wants them to teach religion as creationism, or as they call it, intelligent design, along with science, and you're just not going to be able to teach effectively flying dragons and talking snakes in a real science class. It just doesn't work.
And yet men get the power.
A higher
in the
level
church.
of sexual purity and all this shit.
No, but the men get the power in the church.
Oh, they certainly do.
That's right.
Misogyny is really rampant throughout all three Abrahamic religions, unfortunately.
Yes.
And a lot of the laws that existed prior to the 1920s, when you had these the suffragettes getting up there, is because we had to fight through for getting women to have equal rights. And there's still today problems when it comes to equal pay. It does not exist. It's like 70 cents to $1. And that's an unfortunate thing, but it does affect the family. And especially if you have a female who happens to be the head of the family and don't have a male, this is an unfortunate, unequal circumstances that exist. So these type of things do, as you can understand, affect. It hits us more ways. It hits females especially more ways than what you would normally think. From that to abortion to a number of
Birth
different
control.
things
Stem
and
cell
principles
research.
and stem cell issues in science, basic science,
Yeah.
things where we should be way ahead of other countries around the world. We're sort of held back because of the Catholic resistance
They're
there,
regressive.
you know?
Well, no, not
It's
just
regressive.
Catholic.
It's not. It's
No,
it's
no.
evangelical, Catholic, and a lot of others. But it's the religious
Yes.
forces there that makes it very difficult for us to progress because out of fear or what are so-called principles that are in the Bible, unfortunately.
Yes, very unfortunate.
So
Do you have any children?
No,
No. So we don't
I
know.
wish I did, but I
Yeah.
don't.
Any nieces and nephews?
I do. I have a cousin who lives in Valencia, New York. That's about 50 miles from Albany, and all the rest are in Germany.
And they're all
I
still
did see
Catholic?
them last year.
They're all
You
still
visited-
Catholic?
They're all Catholic, yeah. Well, actually, a lot of them are atheists.
you went to Germany?
All the young ones are pretty
Yeah.
You
much
went to
atheists.
Germany?
I did, yeah.
Okay, good.
Visited
How are they
them last
over
year.
there? How are the feelings about Catholicism, general religions in general?
I didn't really discuss that too much. I was there in 2000 with my wife, and she mentioned, because she's Lutheran, she got into a discussion, but there was
Lutheran
no...
German, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where southern Germany is more Catholic. This is where I was from. I know my cousin Werner is an atheist. My I can't think of his name. Another cousin.
Another
is
cousin.
an atheist.
Sorry, I have to mention names.
And their wives are. So it's pretty common over there.
Isn't that true? And throughout Europe, especially the northern part of Europe and Scandinavian
Yeah.
countries, it's like 95% non-religious. Put it as nuns that are, nuns
Not
that are out
nuns.
there.
You have to look at them with the jaundiced eye because they still take religious tax out of your.
That's an unfortunate thing,
Yeah,
but
I think it's more of a passive, not going to church thing than an actual active
You have to
professing this
declare
belief and
it.
fighting church privilege. I don't think they really do that so much.
Well, maybe eventually they will
Eventually they
decide
will.
that
Yeah.
it's a good
There has
thing
been
to
some
do.
rebellion in Norway where with gay marriage, and I know there was
that's right.
a problem a few years ago.
A few years ago, right now, you got to look at the situation that's going on in the Middle East with ISIS and a number of other rebellious groups, and that want to get back to the old way of their religion.
That old-time religion,
And,
yes,
and that's an unfortunate thing because of it's creating chaos around the world, costing a lot of people money, putting fear into a lot
Costing
of
a
people
lot of
as
people
well.
their lives.
And costing their lives, but there are other ways that lives are going by that unfortunately has not necessarily to do with religion, but has to do with a lot of political things, and that's the climate, for example, as you well know.
Yeah.
The climate is killing a lot more people on this planet than you have as far as religious wars are concerned. And we're talking, as you know,
And species,
tsunami.
too, they're disappearing
But it's
faster than
interesting, you know, that
That's
the
right.
timing of having this Pope Francis leading the church now, and he is acknowledging there is climate problems and climate change because he's a Jesuit who has been taught
More scientific.
science.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
so,
there's nothing unreligious about saying climate change is even
well, some
caused
people
by human
do.
activity.
Yeah, no, some
Yeah,
people.
some do, yeah.
You know, the people who claim that we're about to, Jesus is about to return and they're going to be raptured up, and who cares what happens to the planet because
They will
they're
find
going to be up
any
there.
and every reason to say religion, those who don't follow it are causing the problems. It's that, and has nothing to do with science or natural causes. That's an unfortunate
That was
thing.
last year that they were supposed to go up. This year, I don't know.
Oh no, October 7th. Something's happening October
it is?
7th.
We're
Yes.
gonna
At least
get
a couple
to
of
the time
years.
this thing will be showing. You never
Yeah.
known for sure.
Yeah,
So
by the
I don't
time it's
wanna
shown,
get- I
we'll
don't
be
wanna
here
mention
and we'll
time.
know that October 7th
Because
was
this could be shown
complete
at the time of
nonsense,
the
and
year.
all the others are complete nonsense. I mean, for 2,000 years we've been waiting. They've been waiting for Jesus to return, and they keep setting up. He's going to return on this date, and guess what?
So many
He doesn't.
times. So
And then-
many times.
yes, and-
Slipped in the back door.
Well,
camping was the
Mark
word.
Twain said that if Christ were here today, there's one thing he would not be, and that's a Christian. And I can believe that because didn't he say something about giving up your worldly goods in order to follow him?
Can I say one thing?
Yes, of course.
I don't like that term, he would be a Christian, because I don't give all those good qualities to Christians.
No, he
They
wouldn't
don't
be a
have-
Christian.
No, he
Yeah.
wouldn't be a Christian.
Yeah.
But
Right. Good qualities of mankind is not necessarily on the doorstep of Christians
That's
only.
right, that's
You see,
right.
and this is what I think he means by that. So that those type of things are important. Is there for your interests involved? Have you read any when you listen to the internet, and as far as the discussions or debates are concerned, called debates, did you find anything as far as that you found of interest, like in science, where they mention certain things? You don't win Nobel Prizes based on hearsay, superstition, myths, and church dogma. You win it on good scientific research.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yeah. I'm just thinking of an article I read in Skeptical Inquirer last year about what could be the cause of religious type thinking, and this was an excellent article. And I've never heard this discussed but that apparently children have what this author called promiscuous teleological thinking. Teleological means there's a purpose.
Right.
And all children see purpose. They say, why is there a cloud? They say, well, the cloud is there to rain on us. And that's not the purpose of the cloud. I mean, it rains on Venus too, right?
I don't think it rains water.
Purpose. Well, but by the age of 9 or 10, they start to see that there's another reality out there. That's just not really the truth. It has a cloud rain simply because the atmosphere, the humidity is such that it precipitates and falls down. That's all it knows. It's not thinking of itself as having a purpose.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that. And a study was done last year. I don't know if you remember, where they read stories like fairy tales or stories about heroic deeds. And at the age of 4 or 5, they said, could this happen or couldn't it? If this was a man who jumped over 6 buildings, whatever, almost all the 5-year-olds said, sure, that's possible. But by the time that they're 9 or 10, the ones who have not been raised in evangelical fundamentalist families still have a higher level of saying something is possible, even though it has that element of superhuman magical type thing, whereas those who are not generally can see a story is possible. Yeah, this man studied very hard and he started this company, or maybe he even did some heroic feat, killed a few people, in the war, but not if he killed 500 people.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. Could you do me a favor? If you have any thoughts that you would like to relate to the audience, certain thoughts that's in your mind, if you can give a good suggestion and ideas to something you want to say to the audience that's listening out there, people who are sort of on that fence straddling and are not too sure which way to go, could you give a little statement on your own? We'd appreciate it.
Okay, well, I see nothing beats facts and knowledge. And the only way to get to the truth, the ultimate truth, is to follow the reality and not the fantasy. I'm just trying to put this into words here.
I think you just did. Yeah. I think you just did.
It's so vague, though. All right.
I want to thank you very much.
Okay, hey, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I enjoyed being here.
Yes.
It's a pleasure.